Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for letting us be part of this event. It's very exciting and very, very nice for us. So, the world has changed and keeps on changing constantly. Frankly, it's a fact and we all know it, but it sounds quite banal. But what is more exciting is the speed of the change we are living through today. It's such a speed that we are facing quite extraordinary challenges and we are surrounded by uncertainty. Automation, artificial intelligence, climate change and the required adaptation are just part of the reality we are living in. The painful fact, indeed, is that the traditional mobility is no longer sustainable. Mobility and the mobility needs are changing, and the change requires a completely new approach to policy and regulation as well. New business models and mobility as a service concept, which is very dear to us Finns, will shape the future of mobility for all citizens. They will increase mobility and mobility needs, most probably. The future generations will not have the same approach to mobility as we do today. They will not value the same things. It's a bit of the same thing as different generations value differently their personal mobile devices. So we are faced with these challenges. But these massive challenges bring also completely new possibilities for leadership for the EU. It is clear that the EU has a good opportunity to be a global leader in sustainable and innovative mobility solutions. However, mobility transformations challenges traditional regulatory policy in a very concrete way, and we have very concretely lived through that in Finland as well. Quickly developing technologies and business models cannot prosper with slow and inflexible rules and legislators. When it comes to adaptations to the climate change or development of automation, legislators, indeed as well, they need to build up their actions on a comprehensive roadmap, as has been called also upon in the ASEA manifesto. We need that on a national level, but we also need that in an EU level. We need a strategy so that we can play our part in the process accordingly. We need to support innovation, new procedures, and we need to support the forerunners. It goes without saying, of course, that the crossing of borders should be supported when it comes to all mobility technologies. That's the EU for us. Let's take the automated vehicles as an example. They will have many advantages, not the least being increased safety, also from the policy perspective. We need to accompany the development with a regulatory policy that allows for the use of the full potential of these technologies in Europe. This policy needs to be comprehensive, and we need to avoid making solutions ad hoc and fixing just one corner of the things. When it comes to new technologies and innovations, we Finns, we believe in performance-based and risk-based approach and rules. Very detailed technical rules are often not the best approach, since we do not have the crystal ball as policymakers. We do not foresee even the near future and the technical development. Performance-based and risk-based approach means that us lawmakers, the legislators, just set targets, the framework, but we do not take a position on the means. Regulations also need to be technologically neutral. This is very important. We believe that it is not for the lawmakers to choose one technology over the other. Often, as legislators, we just simply do not have the required competence for assessing pros and cons of different solutions. Furthermore, deregulation, that also has to be an integral part of the lawmaker's toolbox. Similarly, transition to clean transport system requires also us legislators to create conditions and enabling framework. The policymakers will need to focus increasingly on just transition and inclusiveness. This is indeed one of the biggest challenges we are talking about today. All citizens must be able to access and afford clean mobility. It is the only way that we can reach our climate goals and truly make an impact. One very good example of this is indeed the charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. The manufacturers currently develop electric vehicles that are more accessible and have longer and longer range. If the charging infrastructure does not follow this development, there is no meaning insisting on having more and more of these vehicles on our roads. The owner of the electric car, they need to be able to access charging point along their daily routes and also when they are moving from a member state to another. Only then can the electric car be truly an option for majority of the population. It is very important that the Commission and the member states work together on this aspect. The transformation of our whole society and the mobility is happening right now, as we know. The traditional regulatory policy need to change, and as lawmakers, we need to change too. Life cycle of a piece of EU legislation, for example, is usually very long. Also, the regulatory work, the negotiation process, take a long time. We think that this, in fact, highlights the need for a comprehensive and strategic approach to regulatory policy, and this is very urgent for us. Lawmakers, we simply cannot afford being too much behind of the development, and we cannot afford regulations that provide obstacles for the transformation. That is really the worst case scenario for the EU. So, for us legislators, I think that we have to understand that we are first and foremost enablers of the transformation. Thank you.